All right. Let's get into this episode. Okay, let's start with chapter 9, where we left off. So before we get into that, let's get a little review. Sorry. So the book started off in the Garden of Eden, the sins that Adam and Eve had with the serpent. And then from there, it went into a lot of detail with Cain and murdering his brother and how his family lineage went on to be. I believe Cain killed, or someone killed Cain by accident because his eyes were going blind. And that's where we left off pretty much. And we kind of went forward to Terah birthing Abram before it became Abraham, and all these little sorcerers and witchy people went outside and they saw this sign in the heavens, and they're all freaking out because they know Abram is about to become Abraham and be the man and take out that entire kingdom. So they're all freaking out, and it got presented to the King Nimrod, and Nimrod told Terah, hey, you need to slay that child, or we're all going to suffer and die. So Terah went home, made a little plan, stole the baby from one of his handmaidens, and gave that baby in place of Abram. And that baby was killed. It was smited, as it says. Nimrod got the baby by the legs, smashed his head on the concrete, and he thought that was the end of everything. So that's where we left off. It's already getting pretty juicy. Let's get into this. Chapter 9. And Haran, the son of Terah, Abram's oldest brother, took a wife in those days. Haran was 39 years old when he took her, and the wife of Haran conceived and bare a son, and he called his name Lot. And she conceived again and bare a daughter, and she called her name Milcah. And she again conceived and bare a daughter, and she called her name Sarai. Haran was 42 years old when he begot Sarai, which was in the 10th year of the life of Abram. And in those days, Abram and his mother and nurse went out from the cave, as the king and his subjects had forgotten the affair of Abram. And when Abram came out of the cave, he went to Noah and his son Shem, and he remained with them to learn the instruction of the Lord and his ways. And no man knew where Abram was. And Abram served Noah and Shem, his son, for a long time. And Abram was in Noah's house 39 years, and Abram knew the Lord from the 3 years old. And he went in the ways of the Lord until the day of his death, as Noah and his son Shem had taught him. And all the sons of the earth in those days greatly transgressed against the Lord, and they rebelled against him, and they served other gods, and they forgot the Lord who had created them in the earth. And the inhabitants of the earth made unto themselves that at the time every man his god, gods of wood and stone, which could neither speak, hear, nor deliver, and the sons of men served them, and they became their gods. All right. And the king and all his servants and Terah with all his household were then the first of those that served gods of wood and stone. And Terah had 12 gods of large size, made of wood and stone, and after the 12 months of the year, and he served each one monthly, and every month Terah would bring his meat offering and drink offerings to his gods. Thus Terah did all his days. And all that generation were wicked in the sight of the Lord, and they thus made every man his god, but they forsook the Lord who had created them. And there was not a man found in those days in the whole earth who knew the Lord, for they served each man his own God, except Noah and his household. And all those who were under his counsel knew the Lord in those days. And Abram, the son of Terah, was waxing great in those days in the house of Noah, and no man knew it, and the Lord was with him. And the Lord gave Abram an understanding heart, and he knew all the works of that generation were vain, and that all their gods were vain and were of no avail. And Abram saw the sun shining upon the earth, and Abram said unto himself, surely now this sun that shines upon the earth is God, and him I will serve. And Abram served the sun in that day, and he prayed to him. And when evening came, the sun set as usual, and Abram said within himself, surely this cannot be God. And Abram still continued to speak within himself, who is he who made the heavens and the earth? Who created upon earth? Where is he? And night darkened over him, and he lifted up his eyes toward the west, north, south, and east. And he saw that the sun had vanished from the earth, and the day became dark. And Abram saw the stars and moon before him. And he said, surely this is God who created the whole earth as well as man. And behold, these his servants are gods around him. And Abram served the moon and prayed to it all that night. And in the morning, when it was light and the sun shone upon the earth as usual, Abram saw all the things that the Lord God had made upon the earth. And Abram said unto himself, surely these are not gods that made the earth and all mankind, but these are the servants of God. And Abram remained in the house of Noah, and there knew the Lord and his ways. And he served the Lord all the days of his life. And all that generation forgot the Lord, and served other gods of wood and stone, and rebelled all their days. And King Nimrod reigned surely, and all the earth was under his control, and all the earth was of one tongue and words of union. And all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together, Phut, Mitzrayim, Cush, and Canaan, with their families, and they said to each other, come, let us build ourselves a city, and in it a strong tower, and its top reaching heaven, and we will make ourselves famed, so that we reign upon the whole world, in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us, that we may reign mightily over them, and that we may not become scattered over the earth on the account of their wars. And they all went before the king, and they told the king these words, and the king agreed with them in this affair, and he did so. And all the families assembled, consisting of about 600,000 men, and they went to seek an extensive piece of ground to build the city and the tower. And they sought in the whole earth, and they found none like one valley at the east of the land of Shinar, about 2 days' walk. And they journeyed there, and they dwelt there. And they began to make bricks and burn fires to build the city and the tower that they imagined to complete. And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin, and they began to build it. And whilst they were building against the Lord God of heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven. These guys are like little ants, man. God's looking at them like, what are you guys doing? You ain't going to get nowhere. We already know how this story ends, right? And all the people and all the families divided themselves in 3 parts. The first said, we will ascend into heaven and fight against them. The second said, we will ascend to heaven and place our own gods there and serve them. And the third part said, we will ascend to heaven and smite him with bows and spears. And God knew all their works and all their evil thoughts. And he saw the city and the tower which they were building. And when they were building, they built themselves a great city and a very high and strong tower. And on account of its height, the mortar and the bricks did not reach the builders in their ascent to it, until those who went up had complete a full year. And after that, they reached to the builders and gave them the mortar and the bricks. Thus was it done daily. Basically, they're working overtime, times 20. And behold, these ascend and others descended the whole day. And if a brick should fall from their hands and get broken, they would all weep over it. And if a man fell and died, none of them would look at him. Wow, this is like some evil, self-centered, all about me attitude kind of stuff. So they cry when the bricks fell, but they didn't give 2 rats ASS about a human body dying. It just blows my mind. Anyways, let's continue. And the Lord knew their thoughts, and it came to pass, when they were building, they cast the arrows toward the heavens, and all the arrows fell upon them, filled with blood. And when they saw them, they said to each other, surely we have slain all those that are in heaven. For this was from the Lord, in order to cause them to err, and in order to destroy them from off the face of the ground. That's interesting. I wonder why there was blood on the arrows coming back down. And they built the tower and the city, and they did this thing daily until many days and years were elapsed. And God said to the 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near to him, saying, come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man shall not understand the language of his neighbor. And they did so unto them. And from that day following, they forgot each man his neighbor's tongue, and they could not understand to speak in one tongue. And when the builder took from the hands of his neighbor lime or stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it upon his neighbor, that he would die. And they did so many days, and they killed many of them in this manner. And the Lord smote the 3 divisions that were there, and he punished them according to their works and designs. Those who said, "We will ascend to heaven and serve our gods," became like apes and elephants. And those who said, "We will smite the heaven with arrows," the Lord killed them, one man through the hand of his neighbor. And the 3rd division of those who said, "We will ascend to heaven and fight against him," the Lord scattered them throughout the earth. And those who were left amongst them, when they knew and understood the evil which was coming upon them, they forsook the building, and they also became scattered upon the face of the whole earth. And they ceased building the city and the tower, therefore called that place Babel. For there the Lord confounded the language of the whole earth. Behold, it was at the east of the land of Shinar. And as to the tower, which up 1/3 part thereof from heaven, and burned another 1/3, and the other 1/3 is left to this day, and it is of that part which was aloft, and its circumference is 3 days' walk. In that hour, people without number. Chapter 10. And Peleg the son of Eber died in those days, in the 48th year of the life of Abram son of Terah, and all the days of Peleg were 239 years. And when the Lord had scattered the sons of men on account of their sin at the tower, behold, they spread forth into many divisions, and all the sons of men were dispersed into the 4 corners of the earth. And all the families became each according to its language, its land, or its city. And the sons of men built many cities according to their families, in all the places where they went, and throughout the earth where the Lord had scattered them. And some of them built cities in places from which they were afterward extirpated, and they called these cities after their own names, or the names of their children, or after their particular occurrences. And the sons of Japheth, the son of Noah, went and built themselves cities in the place where they were scattered, and they called all their cities after their names. And the sons of Japheth were divided upon the face of the earth into many divisions and languages. And these are the sons of Japheth according to their families: Gomer, Magog, Medea, Javan, Tubal, Mesech, and Teres. These are the children of Japheth according to their generations, and the children of Gomer according to their cities, where the Francum, who dwell in the land of Franza, by the river Franza, by the river Sanaa. And the children of Rephath are the Bartahim, who dwell in the land of Bartonia, by the river Leda, which empties its waters in the great sea, Gihon, that is Oceanus. And the children of Togarma, and let's read that again. And the children of Togarma are 10 families, and these are their names: Buzar, Parzunak, Balgar, Elakanam, Ragbib, Tarki, Bid, Zubuk, Angol, and Tilmaz. All these spread and rested in the north and built themselves cities. And they called their cities after their own names, those they who abide by the rivers Hithla and Itlak unto this day. But the families of Angoli, Balgar, and Parzunak, they dwell by the great river Dubni, and the names of their cities are also according their own names. And the children of Javan are the Javanim, who dwell in the land of Macedania. And the children of Mediar are the Orilam, that dwell in the land of Curson. And the children of Tubal are those that dwell in the land of Tuskna, by the river Pashia. And the children of Mesech are the Shibashni, and the children of Teres are Rushash, Cushni, and Angolis. All these went and built themselves cities. Those are the cities that are situate by the sea Jabus, by the river Kura, which empties itself in the river Tragan. Man, that was hard to read. Those names are just wild. I'm sorry. This is my my second time reading this in like 4 years, so bear with me with these names. And the children of Elisha are the Almanim, And they also went and built themselves cities. Those are the cities situate between the mountains of Job and Shibathmo. And of them were the people of Lombardy, who dwell opposite the mountains of Job and Shibathmo. And they conquered the land of Italia and remained there until this day. And the children of Shittim are the Romim, who dwell in the valley of Canopia by the river Tebrui. Gotta get past these weird names. Hold on. And the children of Deutonim are those who dwell in the cities of the sea Gihon in the land of Bardna. These are the families of the children of Japheth according to their cities and languages, when they were scattered after the tower, and they called their cities after their names and occurrences. And these are the names of all their cities according to their families, which they built in those days after the tower. And the children of Ham were Cush, Mitzrayim, Phut, and Canaan, according to their generation and cities. All these went and built themselves cities as they found fit places for them, and they called their cities after the names of their fathers: Cush, Mitzrayim, Phut, and Canaan. And the children of Mitzrayim are the Ludim, Anamim, Lehabim, Naptuchim, Pasurim, Kalushim, and Kapaturim, 7 families. All these dwell by the river Sihor, that is the brook of Egypt, and they built themselves cities and called them after their own names. And the children of Pathros and Kaslak intermarried together, and from them went forth the Palestim, and the Asthim, and the Jerarim, and the Githim, and the Ekronim. In all 5 families, these also built themselves cities, and they called their cities after the names of their fathers unto this day. And the children of Canaan also built themselves cities, and they called their cities after their names, 11 cities, and others without number. And 4 men from the family of Ham went to the land of the plain. These are the names of the 4 men: Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim. And these men built themselves 4 cities in the land of the plain, and they called the names of their cities after their own names. And they and their children and all belonging to them dwelt in those cities, and they were fruitful and multiplied greatly and dwelt peaceably. And Seir, the son of Hur, son of Hevi, son of Canaan, went and found a valley opposite to the Mount Paran, and he built a city there, and he and his 7 sons and his household dwelt there. And he called the city which he built Seir, according to the name that is the land of Seir unto this day. These are the families of the children of Ham, according to their languages and cities, when they were scattered to their countries after the tower. And some of the children of Shem, son of Noah, father of all the children of Eber, also went and built themselves cities in the places wherein they. And the sons of Shor are Pachahad, Lud, and Aram, and they built themselves cities and called the names of all their cities after their names. And Ashur, son of Shem, and his children and household went forth at that time, a very large body of them, and they went to a distant land that they found, and they met with a very extensive valley in the land that they went to, and they built themselves 4 cities, and they called them after their own names and occurrences. And these are the names of the cities which the children of Ashur built: Nineveh, Resen, Kalak, and Rehoboth. And the children of Ashur dwell there until this day. And the children of Aram also went and built themselves a city, and they called the name of the city Uz after their eldest brother, and they dwell therein. That is the land of Uz to this day. And in the 2nd year after the tower, a man from the house of Ashur, whose name was Bala, went from the land of Nineveh to sworn with his household whatever he could find a place, and they came until opposite the cities of the plain against Sodom, and they dwelt there. And the man rose up and built there a small city and called its name, after they were scattered upon the kingdom, city, and family of the families of the children of Noah, many cities after this. And they established governments in all their cities in order to be regulated by their orders. So did all the families of the children of Noah forever. Chapter 11. And Nimrod, son of Cush, was still in the land of Shinar, and he reigned over it and dwelt there. And he built cities in the land of Shinar. And these are the names of the 4 cities which he built, and he called their names after the occurrences, what happened to them in the building of the tower. And he called the first Babel, saying, because the Lord there confounded the language of the whole earth. And the name of the second called Eric, because from there God dispersed them. And the third he called Eshed, saying there was a great battle at that place. And the fourth he called Kalna, because his princes and mighty men were consumed there. And they vexed the Lord, they rebelled and transgressed against him. And when Nimrod had built these cities in the land of Shinar, he placed in them the remainder of his people, his princes, and his mighty men that were left in his kingdom. And Nimrod dwelt in Babel, and he there renewed his reign over the rest of his subjects. And he reigned surely, and the subjects and princes of Nimrod called his name Amraphel, saying that at the tower its princes and men fell through his means. Did not return to the Lord, and he continued in wickedness. Sons of men, and Mardon his son was worse to the abominations of his father, and he caused the sons of men to sin. Therefore it said, from the wicked go forth wickedness. Let me say that again, because that pertains to any generation. And he caused the sons of men to sin. Therefore it is said, from wicked goeth forth wickedness. Can I get an amen? At that time, there was a war between the families of the children of Ham as they were dwelling in the cities which they had built. And Chedor Lamer, king of Elam, went away from the families of the children of Ham, and he fought with them, and he subdued them. And he went to the 5 cities of the plain, and he fought against them, and he subdued them, and they were under his control. And they served him 12 years, and they gave him a yearly tax. At that time died Nahor, son of Serug, in the 49th year of the life of Abram, son of Terah. And in the 15th year of his life of Abram, son of Terah, Abram came forth from the house of Noah and went to his father's house. So this is getting pretty interesting. So he's been living with Noah this whole time, hasn't seen his father. Sorry, not his 15th year, it's 50th year. Let me read that again. At the time died Nohar, son of Surug, in the 49th year of the life of Abram, son of Terah. And in the 50th year of his life of Abram, son of Terah, Abram came forth to the house Noah and went to his father's house. So he hasn't seen his father in like 40 something years, and he's going to go to his dad's house. So this is going to get pretty interesting. All right, let's continue. It's getting good. And Abram knew the Lord, and he went in his ways and instructions, and the Lord his God was with him. And Terah his father was in those days still captain of the hosts of King Nimrod, and he still followed strange gods. And Abram came to his father's house and saw 12 gods standing there in their temples. And the anger of Abram was kindled when he saw these images in his father's house. And Abram said, as the Lord liveth, these images shall not remain in my father's house. So shall the Lord who created me do unto me, if in 3 days' time I do not break them all. And Abram went from them, and his anger burned within him. And Abram hastened and went from the chamber to his father's outer court. And he found his father sitting in the court, and all his servants with them. And Abram came and sat before him. And Abram asked his father, saying, Father, tell me, where is God who created heaven and earth, and all the sons of men upon earth? And who created thee and me? And Terah answered his son Abram and said, Behold, those who created us are with us in this house. And Abram said to his father, My Lord, show me them to me, I pray thee. And Terah brought Abram into the chamber of the inner court. And Abram saw, and behold, the whole room was full of gods of wood and stone, 12 great images, and others less than they, without number. And all thou seest upon earth, and which created me and mine. And Terah bowed down to his gods, and he then went away from them and went away with him. And Abram had gone from them, he went to his mother and sat before her. And he said to his mother, Behold, my father has shown me those who made heaven and earth, and all the sons of men. Now, therefore, hasten and fetch a kid from the flock, and make of it savory meat, that I may bring it to my father's gods as an offering for them to eat. Perhaps I may thereby become acceptable to them. If you guys haven't noticed, he's being sarcastic right now. Abram's being very sarcastic. He's basically saying, okay, yeah, these are the gods. Yeah, my dad showed me. So, I need to get some meat so I can go feed them. And he's saying it in a literal sense, right? Let's continue. And his mother did so. And to Abram, and Abram took the savory before his father's gods. And he drew nigh to them that they might eat. And Terah his father did not know of it. And Abram saw on the day when he was sitting amongst them that they had no voice, no hearing, no motion, and not one of them could stretch forth his hand to eat. And Abram mocked them and said, surely the savory meat that I prepared has not pleased them. Perhaps it was too little for them. And for that reason they would not eat. Therefore tomorrow I will prepare fresh savory meat, better and more plentiful than this, in order that I may see the result. And it was on the next day that Abram directed his mother concerning the savory meat, and his mother rose and fetched 3 fine kids from the flock, and she made of them some excellent savory meat, such as her son was fond of. And she gave it to her son Abram, and Terah his father did not know of it. So this guy is just pushing the limit right now on these statues. So let's get into this. And Abram took the savory meat from his mother and brought it before his father's gods into the chamber, and he came nigh unto them that they might eat. And he placed it before them. And Abram sat before them all day, thinking perhaps they might eat. All right, let's get to the next one. Hold on. I'm getting a little situated here. And Abram viewed them, and behold, they had neither voice nor hearing, nor did one of them stretch forth his hand to eat the meat. And in the evening of that day, in that house, Abram was clothed with the Spirit of God. And he called out and said, woe unto my father, this wicked generation, whose hearts are all inclined to vanity, who serve these idols of wood and stone, which can neither eat, smell, hear, nor speak, who have mouths without speech, eyes without sight, ears without hearing, hands without feeling, and legs which cannot move. Like them are those that made them and that trust in them. And when Abram saw all these things, his anger was kindled against his father. He had hastened and took a hatchet in his hand and came into the gods, and he broke all his father's gods. Stirring the pot. I love it. And when he had done breaking the images, he placed the hatchet in the hand of the great God, which was before them. And he went out, and Terah his father came home, for he had heard at the door the sound of the striking of the hatchet. So Terah came into the house to know what this was about. And Terah, having heard the noise of the hatchet in the room of the images, ran to the room to the images, and he met Abram going out. And Terah entered the room and found all the idols fallen down and broken, and a hatchet in the hand of the largest, which was not broken. And the savory meat which Abram his son had made was still before them. And when Terah saw this, his anger was greatly kindled, and he hastened and went from the room to Abram. And he found Abram his son still sitting in the house, and he said to him, what is work thou hast done to my gods? And Abram answered Terah his father, and he said, not so, my lord, for I thought savory meat before them, and when I came nigh to them with the meat that they might eat, they all at once stretched forth their hands to eat before the great one had put forth his hand to eat. And the large one saw their works that they did before him, and his anger was violently kindled against them. And he went and took the hatchet that was in the house, and came to them and broke them all. And behold, the hatchet is yet in his hand, as thou seest. And Terah's anger was kindled against his son Abram when he spoke this. And Terah said to Abram his son in anger, what is this tale that thou hast told? Thou speakest lies to me. Is there in these gods spirit, soul, or power to do all thou hast told me? Are they not wood and stone? And have I not myself made them? And canst thou speak such lies, saying that the large God that was with them smote them? It is thou that didst place the hatchet in his hand, and then says he smote them all. So he's basically using his own nonsense against him. He went in there, threw the meat in the middle of the statues. Then he got the hatchet, broke all the small statues, left the hatchet in the biggest statue. And then his dad's like, what happened to all my statues? well, Dad, I gave the meat to the statues, and the big one got mad because they all started trying to grab my food or trying to grab his food, and then he just killed them all. And Terah's like, that's impossible because they're made of, inanimate objects, which is proving his point. You know what I mean? So let's move on. And Abram answered his father and said to him, and how canst thou then serve these idols in whom there is no power to do anything? Can those idols in which thou truest deliver thee? Can they hear thy prayers when thou callest upon them? Can they deliver thee from the hands of thy enemies? Or will they fight thy battles for thee against thy enemies, that thou shouldest serve wood and stone, which can neither speak nor hear? And now surely it is not good for thee, nor for the sons of men that are connected with thee, to do these things. Are you so silly, so foolish, or so short of understanding that you will serve wood and stone and do after this manner? And forget the Lord God who made heaven and earth, and who created you in the earth, and thereby bring a great evil upon your souls in this matter by serving stone and wood. Did not our fathers in the days of old sin in this manner? And the Lord God of the universe brought the waters of the flood upon them and destroyed the whole earth. And how can you continue to do this and serve gods of wood and stone, who cannot hear or speak or deliver you from oppression, thereby bringing down the anger of God of the. Now therefore, my father, refrain from this, and bring not evil souls of thy household. And Abram hasted and sprang and took the hatchet from his father's largest idol, and ran away. And Terah, seeing all that Abram had done, hastened to go from his house. And he went to the king, and he came before Nimrod and stood before him. And he bowed down to the king. And the king said, what dost thou want? And he said, I beseech thee, my lord, to hear me. Now, 50 years back, a child was born to me, and thus has he done to my words, and thus has he spoken. And now, therefore, my lord and king, send for him that he may come before thee, and judge him according to the law, that we may be delivered from his evil. Sorry. And the king sent 3 men of his servants, and they went and brought Abram before the king. And Nimrod and all his princes and servants were that day sitting before him, and Terah sat also before them. And the king said to Abram, what is this that thou hast done to thy father and to his gods? And Abram answered to the king in the words that he spoke to his father, and he said, the large God that. Next page. By the way, this is Abram now telling King Nimrod, the man of the city, the same baloney story that he's told his dad. So let's go. Let me connect that really quick. And read that again. And the king said to Abram, what is this that thou hast done to thy father, to his gods? And Abram answered the king in the words that he spoke to his father. And he said, the large God that was with them in the house did to them what thou hast heard. And the king said to Abram, have they power to speak and eat and do as thou hast said? And Abram answered him, saying, and if there be no power in them, why dost thou serve them and cause the sons of men to err through thy follies? Dost thou imagine that they can deliver thee or do anything small or great, that thou shouldest serve them? And why wilt thou not sense the God of the whole universe, who created thee and in whose power it is to kill and keep alive? O foolish, simple, and ignorant to thee forever. And I thought thou wouldest teach thy servant done this, but hast filled the whole earth with thy sins and the sins of thy people who have followed thy ways. Dost thou not know, or hast thou not heard, that this evil which thou doest, our ancestors sinned therein in the days of old, and the eternal God brought the waters of the flood upon them and destroyed them all, and also destroyed the whole earth on their account? And wilt thou and thy people rise up now and do like unto this work, in order to bring down the anger of the Lord of the universe, and to bring evil upon thee and the whole earth? Now therefore put away this evil deed which thou doest, and serve the God of the universe, as thy soul is in his hands, and then it will be well with thee. And if thy wicked heart will not hearken to my words, to cause thee to forsake thy evil ways and to serve the eternal God, then wilt thou die in shame in the latter days, thou, thy people, and all who are connected with thee. Hearing thy words, his eyes to the heavens, he said, all wicked, and he will judge them. Let me get a sip of water. Excuse me. So that was the end of chapter 11. So we're going to get on to chapter 12. All right, let's get into it. And when the king heard the words of Abram, he ordered him to be put into prison. And Abram was 10 days in prison. And at the end of those days, the king ordered that all the king, princes, and governors of different provinces and the sages should come before him. And they sat before him, and Abram was still in the house of confinement. And the king said to the princes and sages, "Have you heard what Abram, the son of Terah, has done to his father? Thus has he done to him, and I ordered him to be brought before me, and thus has he spoken. His heart did not misgive him, neither did he stir in my presence. And behold, now he is confined in the prison, and therefore decide what judgment is due to him, who revealed the king, who spoke." Sorry, let me read that again. It's a little tongue twister. "And therefore decided what judgment is due to this man who reviled the king, who spoke and did all things that you heard." And they all answered the king, saying, "The man who revileth the king should be hanged upon a tree. But having done all the things that he had done, and having despised our gods, he must therefore be burned to death. For this is the law in this matter. If it pleases the king to do this, let him order his servants to kindle a fire both night and day in thy brick furnace, and then we will cast this man into it." And the king did so, and he commanded his servants that they should prepare a fire for thee for 3 days and 3 nights in the king's furnace that is in Casdim. And the king ordered them to take Abram from prison and bring him out to be burned. And all the king's servants, princes, lords, governors, and judges, and all the inhabitants of the land, about 900,000 men, stood opposite the furnace to see Abram. The roofs and the towers to see what was doing with Abram, and they all stood together at a distance, and there was not a man left that did not come on that day to behold the scene. And when Abram was come, the conjurers of the king and the sages saw Abram, and they cried out to the king, saying, "O sovereign Lord, surely this is the man who we know to have been the stars, which he declared to the king now. And behold, now his father has also transgressed thy command by bringing thee another child, which thou didst kill." And when the king heard their words, he was exceedingly wroth, and he ordered Terah to be brought before him. And the king said, "Hast thou heard what the conjurers have spoken? Now tell me truly, how didst thou? And if thou shalt speak truth, thou shalt be acquitted." And seeing that the king's anger was so much kindled, Terah said to the king, "My lord and king, thou hast heard the truth, and what the sages have spoken is right." And the king said, "How couldst thou do this thing, to transgress my orders, and to give me a child that thou didst not begot, and to take value for him?" And Terah answered the king, "Because tender feelings were excited for my son, and at that time I took a son of my handmaid, and I brought him to you, the king." And the king said, "Who advised thee to do this? Tell me, do not hide aught from me." And then, sorry, I'm read it again. Todd, this is like really hard to read because it's like really far away and I don't have much room. And Terah greatly, sorry, let's read it again. And the king said, who advised thee to this? Tell me, do not hide aught from me, and then thou shalt not die. And Terah was greatly terrified in the king's presence. And he said to the king, "It was Haran, my eldest son, who advised me to do this." And Haran was in those days that Abram was born, 32 years old. But Haran did not advise his father to anything. For Terah said this to the king in order to deliver his soul from the king, for he feared greatly. And the king said to Terah, "Haran, thy son, who advised thee to this, shall die through fire with Abram, for the sentence of death is upon him, for having rebelled against the king's desire in doing this thing." And Haran at the time felt inclined to follow the ways of Abram, but he kept it within himself. And Haran said in his heart, "Behold, now the king has seized Abram on account of these things which Abram did. And it shall come to pass that if Abram prevail over the king, I will follow him. But if the king prevail, I will go after the king." And when Terah had spoken this to the king concerning Haran his son, the king ordered Haran to be seized with Abram. And they brought them both, Abram and Haran his brother, to cast them into the fire. And all the inhabitants of the land and the king's servants and princes and all the women and little ones were there, standing that day over them. And the king's servants took Abram and his brother, and they stripped them of all their clothes, except their lower garments, which were upon them. And they bound their hands and feet with linen cords, and the servants of the king lifted them up and cast them both into the furnace. And the Lord loved Abram, and he had compassion over him. And the Lord came down and delivered Abram from the fire, and he was not burnt. But all the cords with which they bound him were burned, while Abram remained and walked about in the fire. And Haran died when they had cast him into the fire, and he was burned to ashes, for his heart was not perfect with the Lord. And those men who cast him into the fire, the flame of the fire spread over them, and they were burned, and 12 men of them died. And Abram walked in the midst of the fire 3 days and 3 nights, and all the servants of the king saw him walking in the fire. And they came and told the king, saying, Behold, we have seen Abram walking about in the midst of the fire, and even the lower garment which are upon him are not burnt, but the cord with which he was bound is burnt. And the king heard their words, his heart fainted, and he would not believe them. So he sent to see this matter, and they went and saw it and told it to the king. And Abram walking to and fro in the midst of the body burned, and the king wondered greatly. And the king ordered Abram to be taken out from the fire, and his servants approached to take him out, and they could not, for the fire was round about, and the flames ascending toward them from the furnace. And the king's servants fled from it. And the king rebuked them, saying, Make haste and bring Abram out of the fire, that you shall not die. And the servants of the king again approached to bring Abram out, and the flames came upon them and burned their faces, so that 8 of them died. And when the king saw that his servants could not approach the fire, lest they should be burned, the king called to Abram, O servant of God, who is in heaven, go forth from amidst the fire and come hither before me. And Abram hearkened to the voice of the king, and he went forth from the fire and came and stood before the king. And when Abram came out, the king and all his servants saw Abram coming before the king with his lower garments upon him, for they were not burned, but the cord with which he was bound was burned. And the king said to Abram, How is it that thou wast not burned in the fire? And Abram said to the king, The God of heaven and earth, in whom I trust and whom has all in his powers, he delivered from me the fire into which thou didst cast me. And Haran, the brother of Abram, was burned to ashes, and they sought for his body, and they found it consumed. And Haran was 82 years old when he died in the fire of Kasdim. And the king, princes, and inhabitants of the land, seeing that Abram was delivered from the fire, they became and bowed down to Abram. And Abram said to them, Do not bow down to me, but bow down to the God of the world who made you, and serve him and go in his ways. For it is he who delivered me out of this fire. And it is he who created the souls and spirits of all men, and formed man in his mother's womb, and brought him forth into the world. And it is he who will deliver those who trust in him from all pain. And this thing seemed very wonderful in the eyes of the king and princes, that Abram was saved from the fire, and that Haran was burned. And the king gave Abram many presents, and he gave him his 2 head servants from the king's house. The name of one was Ani, and the name of the other was Eleazar. And all the king's princes and servants gave Abram many gifts of silver, gold, and pearl. And the king and his princes sent him away, and he went in peace. And Abram went forth from the king in peace, and many of the king's servants followed him, and about 300 men joined him. And Abram returned on that day and went to his father's house, he and the men that followed him. And Abram served the Lord his God all the days of his life, and he walked in the ways and followed his law. And from that day forward, Abram inclined the hearts of the sons of men to serve the Lord. And at that time, Nahor and Abram took unto themselves wives, the daughters of their brother Haran. The wife of Nahor was Milcah, and the name of Abram's wife was Sarai, or Sarah. And Sarah, wife of Abram, was barren. She had no offspring in those days. And at that expiration of 2 years from Abram's going out of the fire, that is in the 52nd year of his life, behold, King Nimrod sat in Babel upon the throne, And the king fell asleep and dreamed that he was standing with his troops and hope valley opposite the king's furnace. And he lifted up his eyes and saw a man in the light realm coming forth from the furnace, and that he came and stood before the king and then sprang to the king with his sword. When the king fled from the man, he was afraid, and while he was running, the man threw an egg upon the king's head, and the egg became a great river. And the king dreamed that all his troops sank in that river and died. And the king took flight with 3 men who were before him, and he escaped. And the king looked at these men, and they were clothed in princely dresses as the garments of kings, and had the appearance and majesty of kings. And while they were running, the river again turned to an egg before the king. And there came forth the egg, a young bird, which came before the king and flew at his head and plucked out the king's eye. And the king was grieved at the sight, and he awoke out of his sleep, and his spirit was agitated, and he felt a great terror. And in the morning the king rose from his couch in fear, and he ordered all the wise men and magicians to come before him, when the king related his dream to them. And a wise servant of the king, whose name was Anuki, answered the king, saying, "This is nothing else but the evil of Abram and his seed, which will spring up against my lord and king in the latter days. And behold, the day will come when Abram and his seed and the children of his household will war with my king, and they will smite all the king's hosts and his troops. And as to what thou hast said concerning the 3 men which thou didst see like unto thyself, and which did escape, this means that only thou will escape with 3 kings from the kings of the earth, who will be with thee in battle. And that which thou sawest of the river, which turned to an egg as at first, and the young bird plucking out thine eye, this means nothing else but the seed of Abram, which will slay the king in the latter days. This is my king's dream, and this is its interpretation. And the dream is true, and the interpretation which thy servant has given thee is right. Now therefore, my king, surely thou knowest that it is now 52 years since thy sages saw this at the birth of Abram. And if my king will suffer Abram to live in the earth, it will be to the injury of my lord and king. For all the days that Abram liveth, neither thou nor thy kingdom will be established. For this was known formerly at his birth. And why will not my king slay him, that his evil may be kept from thee in the latter days? And Nimrod hearkened to the voice of Anuki, and he sent some of his servants in secret to go and seize Abram and bring him before the king to suffer death. And Eleazar, Abram's servant, whom the king had given him, was at that time in the presence of the king, and he heard what Anuki had advised the king, and what the king had said to cause Abram's death. And Eleazar said to Abram, "Thou mayest not die through the hands of the king in a dream concerning thee." And thus did Anuki interpret it. Did Anuki advise the king concerning thee? And Abram hearkened to the voice of Eleazar, and Abram hastened and ran for safety to the house of Noah and his son Shem, and he concealed himself there and found a place of safety. And the king's servants came to Abram's house to seek him, but they could not find him, and they searched throughout the country, and he was not to be found. And they went and searched in every direction, and he was not to be met with. And when the king's servants could not, as they didn't find him, and the king drove from his mind this matter concerning Abram. Sorry. And Abram was concealed in Noah's house for 1 month, until the king had forgotten this matter. But Abram was still afraid of the king. And Terah came to see Abram, his son, secretly in the house of Noah. And Terah was very great in the eyes of the king. And Abram said to his father, "Dost thou not know that the king thinketh to slay me, and to annihilate my name from the earth by the advice of his wicked counselors? Now whom hast thou here, and what hast thou in his hand? Arise, let us go together to the land of Canaan, that we may be delivered from his hand, lest thou perish also through him in the latter days. Dost thou not know, or hast thou not heard, that it is not through love that Nimrod giveth thee all his honor, but it is only for his benefit that he bestoweth all this good upon thee? And if he do unto thee greater good for wealth and riches cannot anger. And now, therefore, hearken to my voice, and let us arise and go to the land of Canaan, out of the reach of injury from Nimrod, and serve thou the Lord who created thee in the earth, and it will be well with thee. And cast away all the vain things which thou hast purest. And Abram ceased to speak when Noah and his son Shem answered Terah, saying, True is the word which Abram hath said unto thee. And Terah hearkened to the voice of his son Abram, and Terah did all that Abram said, for this was from the Lord, that the king should not cause Abram's death. And Terah that was the end of chapter. So we ended right there with the last verse of 12 is, and Terah hearkened to the voice of his son Abram, and Terah did all that Abram said, for this was from the Lord, that the king should not cause Abram's death. All right, we're going to do one more chapter 13, and we're going to end it right here. All right, let me see. Yeah, it's a pretty lengthy chapter. Wow. It's like 3 pages. Let's do it. Chapter 13. And Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot, the son of Haran, and Sarah, and his daughter-in-law, the wife of his son Abram, and all the souls of his household, and went with them from Kasdim to go to the land of Canaan. And when they came as far as the land of Haran, they remained there, for it was exceedingly good land for pasture, and of sufficient extent for those who accompanied them. And the people of the land of Haran saw that Abram was good and upright with God. God was with him. And some of the people of the land, Lord and his ways. And these men remained in his house, and they adhered to him. And Abram remained in the land 3 years. And at the expiration of 3 years, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am the Lord who brought thee forth from Kasdim, and delivered thee from the lands of all thine enemies. And now, therefore, if thou wilt hearken to my voice and keep my commandments, my statutes, and my laws, then I will cause thy enemies to fall before thee, and I will multiply thy seed like the stars of heaven, and I will send my blessings upon all the works of my hand, all the works of thy hands, and thou shalt lack nothing. Arise now, take thy wife and all belonging to thee, and go to the land of Canaan, and remain there, and I will there be unto thee for a God, and I will bless thee. And Abram rose and took his wife and all belonging to him, and he went to the land of Canaan as the Lord had told him. And Abram was 50 years old when he went from Haran. And Abram came to the land of Canaan and dwelt in the midst of the city, and he there pitched his tent amongst the children of Canaan, inhabitants of the land. And the Lord appeared to Abram when he came to the land of Canaan, and said to him, This is the land which I gave unto thee and to thy seed after thee forever, and I will make thy seed like the stars of heaven, and I will give unto thy seed for an inheritance all the lands which thou seest. And Abram built an altar in the place where God had spoken to him, and Abram called upon the name of the Lord. And at that time, at the end of 3 years of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, in that year Noah died, which was the 58th year of the life of Abram, and all the days that Noah lived were 950 years, and he died. And Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, he, his wife, and all belonging to him, and all those that accompanied him, together with those that joined him from the people of the land, but Noah, Abram's brother, and Terah his father, and Lot the son of Haran, and all belonging to them dwelt in Haran. In the 50th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and all the cities of the plain revolted from the power of Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, for all the kings of the cities of the plain has served Chedorlaomer for 12 years and given him a yearly tax. But in those days, in the 13th year, they rebelled against him. And in the 10th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, there was war between Nimrod, king of Shinar, and Chedorlaomer, king of Elam. And Nimrod came to fight with Chedorlaomer and to subdue him. For Chedorlaomer was at that time one of the princes of the host of Nimrod. And when all the people at the tower were dispersed, and those that remained were also scattered upon the face of the earth, Chedorlaomer went to the land of Elam and reigned over it and rebelled against his lord. And in those days, when Nimrod saw that the cities of the plain had rebelled, he became with pride and anger to war with Chedorlaomer. And Nimrod assembled all his princes and subjects, about 700,000 men, and went against Chedorlaomer. And Chedorlaomer went out to meet him with 5,000 men. And here we go. It's one of those battles I was talking about. So we got 800,000 versus 5,000 men, right? So Chedorlaomer went out to meet him with 5,000 men, and they prepared for the battle in the valley of Babel, which is between Elam and Shinar. And all those kings fought there, and Nimrod and his people were smitten before the people of Chedorlaomer. And there fell from Nimrod's men about 600,000, and Mardon, the king's son, fell amongst them. So we have 5,000 versus 800,000. Those 5,000 took out 600,000 people. That's insane. And Nimrod fled and returned in shame and disgrace to his land. And he was under subjection to Chedorlaomer for a long time. Chedorlaomer returned to his land and sent princes of his hosts to the king that dwelt around him, to Iriach, king of Elasar, and to Tidal, king of Goyim. And he made covenant with them, and they were all obedient to his commands. And it was in the 15th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, which is the 70th year of the life of Abram. And the Lord appeared to Abram in that year, and he said to him, I am the Lord who brought thee out from Ur, Kasdim, to give thee this land for inheritance. Now therefore walk before me and be perfect and keep my commandments. For to thee and to thy seed I will give this land for an inheritance, from the river Mitzrayim unto the great river Euphrates. And thou shalt come to thy father, thou shalt come to thy fathers in peace and in good age. And the fourth generation shall return here in this land and shall inherit it forever. And Abram built an altar, and he called upon the name of the Lord who appeared to him. And he brought up sacrifices upon the altar to the Lord. At that time, Abram returned and went to Haran to see his father and his father's household, and Abram and his wife, and all belonging to him, returned to Haran. And Abram dwelt in Haran 5 years. And many of the people of Haran, about 72 men, followed Abram. And Abram taught them the instruction of the Lord and his ways, and he taught them to know the Lord. And in those days the Lord appeared to Abram in Haran, and he said to him, Behold, I spoke unto thee these 20 years back, saying, Go forth from thy land, from thy birthplace, from thy father's house, to the land which I have shown thee, to give it to thee and to thy children. For there in that land will I bless thee, and make thee a great nation, and make thy name great, and in thee shall the families of earth be blessed. Now therefore arise, go forth from this place, thou, thy wife, and all belonging to thee, also everyone born in thy house, and all the souls thou hast made in Haran, and bring them out with thee from here, and rise to return to the land of Canaan. And Abram arose and took his wife Sarah, all belonging to him, and all that were born to him, in his house, and the souls which they had made in Haran. And they came out to go to the land of Canaan. And Abram went and returned to the land of Canaan, according to the word of the Lord. And Lot, the son of his brother Haran, went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he went forth from Haran to return to the land of Canaan. And he came to the land of Canaan according to the word of the Lord to Abram. And he pitched his tent, and he dwelt in the plain of Mamre. And with him was Lot, his brother's son, and all belonging to him. And the Lord again appeared to Abram and said, To thy seed will I give this land. And he there built an altar to the Lord who appeared to him, which is still to this day in the plains of Mamre. All right. We'll end right there on chapter 14. We didn't get 8 chapters like we did the first one, but then again, these chapters were a lot longer. So basically, I mean, we covered everything from Genesis, details about the flood, Noah, getting down to Nimrod, what his whole thing was, how he became a mighty man. We got the garments that he took that made him into a strong man. We got Cain and Tubal Cain being killed by accident. And moving forward from there, we have the prophecy of Abram being born. He runs away, hides with Noah and Shem, learns ultimate knowledge, comes back, stirs up the pot, makes the king look like a fool. And right now he's going about his business and serving the Lord. That's where we're pretty much leaving off. So let's save this one for next time. I'll probably do it tomorrow or the next. But I really hope everybody enjoyed this. I know I did. I really like reading these extra biblical books, the Bible. And by the way, the Book of Jasher is mentioned, I believe, in Numbers or the Book of Joshua. I could be wrong, but it's talking about when the earth, when Joshua told God to make the sun stand still. And in that verse, it says, as it is written in the Book of Jasher, which is we are reading now. So if God mentions it, it has to have some kind of, some kind of importance to it. So that's why I'm reading it, form your own opinion, and just enjoy it, And that's it. Other than that, I'll see you guys soon. I'm your host, Lionel Tavares from the Sabbath at Midnight. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys are enjoying it, because once I finish Jasher, I'm going to go into Book of Jubilees, the Book of Enoch, and all those extra apocryphal books. All right, so that's it. Good night, good morning, whatever the case may be to all my listeners around the world. But for me, it is good afternoon. It is 12:30 p.m. in California.